It's 5 when I leave work. Colin, my boss, is stood by the door of the big greenhouse smiling at me, holding a bag of carrots. I work in a nursery growing plants and vegetables which we sell to people. "Here you are, Tony," says Colin. "Give these to your mum." Mum will be happy. She doesn't have a lot of money, so she likes it when I get free things from work. "Oh, by the way," says Colin, "you got a visitor," and he nods to the side of the greenhouse. Maddie's sat there smiling at me. She gets up. "Thought I'd come and see you," she says. She gives me a big kiss on the cheek. I blush. Colin chuckles and then goes back inside the greenhouse. Maddie's same age as me, 25. She takes hold of my hand and we walk down the road. It's a really sunny day, and I tell Maddie that she looks really pretty in a summer dress. She smiles, holds my hand tighter. I tell Maddie all about the lady that came into work today and bought lots of flowers. "Maybe she's getting married," says Maddie. "That's what people do after they've been together a while." And she grips my hand firmly. I have to tell Maddie that she's hurting me. She sighs and lets go. "Sometimes I despair of you, Tony," she says. I'm confused. Later when I get home, I tell Mum what Maddie said. "Maybe she's trying to tell you something," says Mum. "You have been boyfriend and girlfriend for 2 years. I'm still confused. "She wants to get engaged," Mum says, laughing. Mum tells me that her and my dad got engaged a long time ago and were going to get married, but she says that he walked out before they actually got married. I was 4 when he went, so I don't remember him. Mum doesn't really talk about him much, but she did once say that he called me Tony because his favourite football player was somebody called Tony Adams. He played for Arsenal. Dad's favourite team, Mum says. Carry a photo of my dad in my wallet and a picture of Tony Adams that I cut out of an old football annual. "Do you think you'd like to get engaged to Maddie?" Mum asks gently. We talk about it. Finally, I tell her that I love Maddie and I would like to get engaged too. I'm going to save up some of my wages and I'm going to buy Maddie a ring. Mum gets a laptop out and we have a look at engagement rings online. "Very expensive," says Mum. "It'll take you a long time to save up enough money." I'm going to draw a chart for my bedroom wall and I'll mark off every week how much money I've saved. I'm not going to ask Maddie to marry me until I've got the ring, I tell Mum. She hugs me and I feel her wet tears on the side of my face. She says that they're happy tears. One day when I get home from work, there's a man sitting at the kitchen table. Him and Mum are talking quietly. Mum gets up when I come through the door. "This is Bob," says Mum. "You remember, I told you about him a few times. We sometimes meet in the pub." Bob puts his hand out to shake. Oh, but he don't get up. "Hello, Tony," says Bob. "Is this your boyfriend?" I ask Mum. She looks embarrassed. "Well," she begins to say, but Bob cuts her off. "Yeah, I suppose I am," he says, and he looks at Mum. She nods and laughs nervously. Mum's had a few boyfriends since Dad went, but none of them seem to stay very long. Later, when Bob leaves, she comes to see me in bed. "You'll like Bob," she says, "and I know that he'll like you too." I don't say anything. I'm in my room when Mum knocks on the door and asks me to come downstairs. I'm marking my wall chart when she knocks. I've been saving for Maddie's engagement ring for 6 months now, and I work out that I'll have enough money to buy the ring in another 2 months. When Colin hears that I'm saving for the ring, it gives me a wage rise. When I go downstairs, he's sitting in the armchair drinking a beer. "Sit down, Tony," says Bob. "He moved in a few weeks ago. Now he sleeps in Mum's bedroom. I don't like him. I told Mum this before he moved in, but she just said that he were kind and that he'd look after us. And he makes me call him Dad, even though he's not my real dad. And when he saw the photo of my dad that I carry in my wallet, he took it off me and ripped it up. He didn't care about you anyway," says Bob. When he went to bed, I sneaked downstairs and I took the pieces out of the bin and I sellotaped the picture back together. It's under my mattress now. You won't find it there. "Me and your mum have been talking," says Bob. "You've cut your mum's hours at work and we need to consider household finances." I look at Mum. She's looking at the floor. Are you going to get a job, Dad? I ask. Bob glares at me and Mum quietly says, don't be cheeky to your dad. You know he can't be working at the moment. Bob looks at me. Your mum's got something to tell you, he says. Mum's not even looking at me. I'm sorry, Tony, says Mum. We've been talking and we're going to have to... Bob cuts her off. What she's trying to say, he says, is that it's not fair us scrimping and saving like this when you've got all that money saved up. I look at Mum. But that money, it's for Maddie's engagement ring, I say. And I can see tears welling up in her eyes, but she doesn't say anything. Give me your bank card, please, Tony, says Bob. It won't be forever, says Mum. Just until we get back on our feet. Well, she doesn't sound convinced. Mum, I say. No reply. I slowly take my bank card out and give it to him. You're too young to get engaged anyway, says Bob. One day when I get back from work, Mum's cleaning the kitchen floor. All she seems to do these days is clean and make meals. He's sat watching some game show on TV. I'm going out to the park with Maddie later, I tell Mum. I'm going to ask her to marry me anyway, even though I can't get her the ring anymore. I'm going to go down on one knee, just like you told me to. But Mum doesn't say anything. Better cancel tonight, he calls from the sitting room. Something we need to discuss. I turn to Mum. But I've cancelled Maddie twice this week. I haven't seen her for 10 days. He told me that I wasn't allowed to see her anymore. People like you shouldn't have girlfriends, let alone fiancés, he shouted at me. He got angry with me because he overheard me telling Mum that I didn't have any money to go out because he'd taken all my wages. Better do as he says Mum without even looking up. You can text her, he says, coming into the kitchen. But I want to ring her, I say defiantly, taking out my phone. You'll do as I say. And the way he says that makes me feel really scared. He watches over me as I write the text to Maddie. I feel like Maddie's going to be really cross with me, but I know that she'll be happy when I ask her to marry me. Just wish I knew when I were going to see her next. He takes the phone out of my hand. I think I'll look after this, he says, and he turns it off and he puts it in his jeans pocket. Tony, Mum says, Bob's been... your dad's been looking into things, and it seems that you can actually claim benefits, you know, money from the government. And this money, well, it's more than your wages are at the nursery. I don't understand. You don't need to work, love, Mum tells me. Bob's going to ring Colin in the morning and tell him that you're leaving. But I like my job, I say. I like talking to the customers and I like Colin. Starting to cry. It's not fair. Why won't she say anything? She can see how upset I am, but she's not even doing anything. You're an ungrateful little moron, says Bob, and he sends me to my room. I lie on my bed and I bury my head in the pillow. I can hear him shouting at her downstairs. I can't hear exactly what he's saying, but he sounds really angry. I wish that Maddie were here, or Colin. And a few hours later, I can hear footsteps on the landing. It's Mum. She looks pale and her eyes are all red. I think she's been crying too. Mum, I say, can I borrow your phone? I just want to ring Maddie. But she shakes her head. I'm sorry, Tony, she whispers. But she doesn't need to say anything else. I know. He's taken her phone off her too. The next day, Bob says that I have to stay in my room. Learn some respect, he says through the bedroom door. Later, I hear him on the phone to Colin. I can't hear exactly what he's saying, but he's asking for something called a P45. This makes me sad again, and I worry that Colin's going to be cross with me for stopping working at the nursery. Half an hour later, I hear a car pull up outside the house. I go to the window. I see Colin walking up the drive. I hear him knock at the door. It's Mum's morning at work today, so Bob answers the door. Can I just speak to Tony? I hear Colin say. I really want to go downstairs and see Colin, but I know that if I do, Bob will be angry with me. He can't go on working for you, says Bob. Not on your pitiful wages. Colin's still wanting to speak to me, but Bob cuts him off. Tony's made his decision, he says, and he shuts the door. Colin knocks a few times, but there's no way that Bob's going to open the door again. Finally, I hear footsteps walking down the drive. I go back to the bedroom window and I see Colin getting into his car. I wave at him, but he doesn't look up. Drives off. One morning I'm in the kitchen. Mum's preparing breakfast for him and I'm cleaning out the oven. Bob said the oven was a bloody disgrace. As Mum's frying bacon, she asked me to set out his tray. That's become one of my jobs. Bob likes to have all his meals on a tray with a special linen napkin on his favourite plate. Make sure you use one of the iron napkins, Mum says. She seems stressed. She knows that if he's not happy, then he won't let us eat. Today, though, he seems satisfied when we take him his breakfast, and while he sits eating in the sitting room, we have our breakfast in the kitchen. We have all our meals in here. Oh, but we're not allowed special plates like him. We can only have bowls and a spoon. Since I stopped working with Colin at the nursery, I've hardly been out the house. Bob doesn't like it when I go out. I just spend most of my time in the kitchen with Mum. He sometimes lets me through the sitting room to go to the toilet or to do other jobs in the house. Got to earn your keep, he tells me. I haven't heard from Maddie for weeks. I can't speak to her. He's still got my phone. I think she tried to ring the house phone a few times, but he's unplugged it now. I just feel scared and helpless about leaving the house in case he gets angry with me or Mum. I mean, I can't even go to my bedroom. He only lets me in there when he goes to bed. And sometimes that's really late if he stays up watching films on the telly. Sometimes me and Mum play cards in the kitchen, but she doesn't talk to me like she used to. She just keeps saying, don't make him cross, Tony, or better do as he says. She just looks frightened all the time. This one morning, I hear the postman deliver the post. Bob comes in and picks the post up as he always does. One here for you, he says, opening the letter. He reads it and hands it to me. It's from Maddie. I feel tears welling up in my eyes as I read it. Mum takes hold of my hand under the table, away from his gaze. Maddie's got another boyfriend, I tell Mum. He's called Richard, and Maddie says that he's serious about her. I wish that I'd told her about the ring. If only he hadn't come along. Now it's too late.